Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting of the TRPA Operations and Governance Committee to order. The date is Wednesday, October 22nd, and the time is 8:32 a.m. First item on the agenda is roll call to determine a quorum.
Mr. Aguilar,
Here.
Mr. Bass. One moment, Mr. Bass. I see you're here. Mr. Bass, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, but I'm not panelist. But I'll be there in about 15 minutes. But yeah, if you can promote me to panelist.
All right, we will move you. Thank you. Ms. Gustafson?
I'm here.
Ms. Hill? Ms. Lane?
I'm here as well.
Mr. Rice?
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Excellent. Okay, I will now go over the remote and in-person meeting rules for the day. Remote committee members, please raise your hand to speak and mute your microphone unless speaking to help cut down on the background noise. I'd like to ask that all remote members turn your camera on if you are able. Remote members may not use the chat box to make any comments or to have sidebar conversations. If you are viewing the webinar on a personal computer in the room, please ensure that your microphone and speakers are turned off to prevent feedback. Members of the public who have joined us in person, please raise your hand at the appropriate time for public comment, and you will be called on to speak. The first item on our agenda is the public comment period for any item listed on the agenda. Any member of the public wishing to address the committee on an agenda item, please raise your hand now or in person by clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen or by dialing *9 on your phone, and you will be called on and unmuted by a TRPA staff member. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there anybody in the room that would like to address the committee on any item listed on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, is there anybody online?
Madam Chair, we have one hand raised to make public comment.
Okay,
Brett Tibbetts, please go ahead and address the committee.
welcome, Mr. Tibbetts.
I'm commenting on the Barton fine. What was the range examined for the Barton violations fine? This $50,000 amount seems very, very low to me. Graham saying,
Mr. Tibbetts,
yes.
this is the Operations and Governance Committee. This is
Oh,
yes, so you're
you.
a little early for the general board meeting, which will start.
No, I meant to comment on the
Or
legal.
legal.
I'm on
Yeah.
the wrong committee. Thank you.
It's a separate committee.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other members of the public?
No other hands raised.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and close public comment, and we will move on to approval of the agenda. Staff, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Okay, I will deem the agenda approved as posted. We'll move to approval of minutes. We have a draft set of minutes from September 24th, beginning on page 11 of our packet. Does any member of the committee wish to make a change?
Motion to approve.
Okay, that'll work too. We have a motion to approve. Is there any discussion on the motion? We'll go ahead and take a verbal vote, right? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Bass. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We'll go ahead and move now to discussion and possible recommendation for approval of amendment to Rule 16.2 of the TRPA Rules of Procedure regarding the basis by which fees are adjusted annually. This item can be found in your packet on page 55. I'd like to turn this over to Mr. Cox.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thanks for having me this morning. Chad Cox, TRPA Finance Lead. Hey, wanted to bring before you today an amendment or a proposed amendment to one of our rules of procedure. But let me step back a little bit and talk about Rule 16 dictates how we collect and adjust fees on an annual basis. It's kind of how we go through and manage that process. Section 16.2 talks about the adjustment itself, and that's what enables us currently on an annual basis. It says that the agency shall update fees based on the Western States Consumer Price Index, or CPI. This has been the case since 2018. I think in 2018, this rule was adopted. I think it was initially pegged and tied to San Francisco CPI. And then later in 2023, we moved it over to the Western region or Western states. We use those terms synonymously. That represents kind of most of the states west of Mississippi. And that's an economic indicator that you can find online. That's a benchmark also that is referenced in Nevada law governing fee adjustments. So we kind of are similar to that. What this rule doesn't address, though, is in a situation if there's deflation, or potentially in a you could be in a spot, we're not currently there, but in the future where the CPI is negative. So one thing to consider, right? Our staff costs, and I'll get to this on the next page. Our staff costs don't necessarily move in parallel or in proportion with inflation at all times. So that's kind of the concern. And so kind of in the spirit of continuous improvement and staying ahead of potential challenges, we'd like to add some language to the rule to safeguard our existing policy. So jumping over to the next page, it captures the proposed amendment to Rule 16.2. And first and foremost, I want you all to know this does not change the way in which fees get updated. It still is something that staff would bring on an annual basis for consideration and then approval of the board. That does not change. The board has the ability to review and approve here going forward, just like it would under the existing rule. So there's no change there. What we're proposing is adding some language after the portion where it says the fee schedule shall be updated annually based on the Western States Consumer Price Index. What we'd like to add is, or a minimal annual increase may be applied to maintain administrative continuity and ensure operational stability. This would, I think, safeguard the agency in a situation if there's a deflationary environment. That CPI in the Western states looks at a basket of goods. So we could be in a spot where, in general, there's deflation, but maybe things like healthcare are actually up. So the agency could be in a position where costs are actually increasing, even though it's deflation. So we want to make sure we have the ability, if we're still not covering cost, the current environment, we're roughly $1 million annually more cost than fee income. So we want to be able to potentially make a proposal in a deflationary environment for fee increase. What else is important to cover? Yeah, so this would ensure that our fee structure, continues to reflect the reasonable cost of providing the service. So bottom line, right? This fee update has been reviewed by our legal counsel. It enhances our ability to update fee schedules. The amendment went through all the appropriate checklists and review. We went through with the legal team and looked at each threshold area to determine if there was a potential impact. And given its administrative in nature, there is no adverse impact for this proposed change. When you look at our rules of our compact, Article 7, Chapter 3, and Article 6 of the Rules of Procedure, it requires us to go through these processes to ensure that there's not going to be an adverse impact. So we've done that. That's provided in your packet. So I think we've done all that's required from an agency perspective to provide rationale for making the proposed change. And so, with that, I'm open for any questions that y'all may have.
All right, thank you for that report. I'm sure my colleagues might have some questions here.
I just had a quick comment. I really appreciate that we need to have that flexibility. with the assurance that both the Governance, Operations and Governance Committee, as well as the governing board, would have to make the final decision and take into account, you know, what kind of climate we might be in and how long we perceive that continuing. So I think given all those checks and balances, that's what we should be about. So appreciate the
Thank you.
proposal.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And just to clarify, so the language, Western states, Western region, it's the same thing.
Correct. Shelley and I discussed this a little bit as well. So that, like, if you go on to the website, it is called the Western region. We probably could have tweaked that language in here, but I think the two terms are used synonymously. The Western states make up the Western region. So, yep. Great
That is
question.
something that we probably want to be clear on though, because if somebody wanted to look it up,
Yeah.
it would.
Yeah, looking just kind of basic Google search, it says the same.
Okay.
And so, Graham and I talked about that. If there's any other places where we've got the words Western states, we wouldn't want our words to say two different things. So we kept it similar to what the rule was written back in 2023.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Thank you. Great
for that.
question.
Yeah, thank you. Are any of my colleagues online? I see Mr. Rice has his hand raised. Mr. Rice?
Thank you. One of the frequent criticisms or comments that I get is that the cost of doing business with TRPA makes doing any construction at all almost cost prohibitive for anybody that wishes to improve something or build something. I want to make sure that we are able to give the oversight to make sure that we don't get any further off the grid when it comes to the cost of doing something in the basin. I know that for years, my standing joke was my wife wants this damn deck built, and there's no way I could do it without buying half an acre somewhere else and transferring the points. But I just want to make sure that we're mindful of our fees and costs to the public that are trying to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any further comments from my colleagues online?
No,
Okay.
I think it's a good move. That would be my only comment. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Then I'll bring it back to the committee for a motion. There are two required motions that can be found on page 55, two separate motions.
I'll make a motion to approve the required findings as described in attachment A, including a finding of no significant effect for adoption of the proposed amendments to the rules of procedure.
Thank you, Ms. Gustafson. Is there any further comments on the motion? May we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Aguilar,
Yes.
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Ms. Hill, Ms. Gustafson. Yes. Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Ms. Lane.
Yes,
Madam Chair, that motion passes.
thank you. And then there'll be a second motion.
I'll move approval to adopt resolution 2025-XXX to amend the rules of procedure as shown in attachment B.
Thank you, Ms. Gustafson. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Aguilar,
Yes.
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Ms. Hill, Ms. Gustafson. Yes. Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Ms. Lane.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Okay, great. We will move on to item number 5, discussion and possible recommendation for approval of inflation adjustments to TRPA application filing fee schedule, mobility mitigation fees, and the rental vehicle mitigation fees. This item can be found in your packet starting on page 85. And again, I will turn this over to Mr. Cox.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Chad Cox, TRPA CFO for the record. So Similar to last year, we're bringing forth to you the annual adjustment. This is the first half of the rule we just discussed. We are in a position currently, maybe jump to the next slide. We're in a position currently where the Western States Consumer Price Index as of August, year over year, the inflation was 3.2%. So what we're recommending is a proposed increase to application fees, mobility mitigation fees, and the rental vehicle mitigation fees of the 3.2. Just, you know, we budgeted 3% when we went back and if I go back and look at how we prepared the fiscal year 26 budget, we're in the 2 to 3% inflation. So that's what we assumed at that time. So this has been budgeted. Our fees continue to be on budget. We'll get more into that as we look at the September year-to-date financials. But yeah, so the recommendation is to leverage the Western States CPI index as the first half of the rule states, and apply that to each of these three categories. I think it's also important to note the rental vehicle mitigation increase goes up 20 cents to $6.33 a day per vehicle per rental, and this is for visitors. So if you're a local, it's not applicable to that rental rate, and those fees are transferred to TTD, and they use those for operations. It's roughly $80,000 a year is what it's been generating the last couple of years. So that's good. As you can see, I've provided an application fee history for you, so you can kind of see the 3.2 is kind of in the range of the average of the last few years, with the exception of the big jump in 2018, which is when I guess we had an increased fees in 15 years. So we got way behind. That was the big increase. And 2022, there was a lot of inflation. We've been following the Western States Consumer Price Index for 23, 24, and 25 here is the proposal. So with that, I don't know if there's any questions.
Mr. Aguilar.
Yes, it says application fees do not fully cover permitting and compliance department costs and overhead.
Correct.
What percentage do they cover? Why don't they cover the costs?
Roughly 75% is what we're covering today. So I think there's an opportunity. What we've continued to do as a team is we're working process improvements too. So I think we used to cover even less than that. We've been trying to do more volume with the same staff by doing process improvements. So we've actually seen both between the fees increasing here on the page plus process improvements, we've been able to cover more of the cost, but we still have about $1 million to go to get fully covered.
How are you funding that gap?
General fund.
Is there a reason why we don't try to get 100% coverage?
I think we will. I think we're working towards it. I just don't know if you'd have to go, you'd basically need a 25% increase to get all the way there. And I don't think that that's probably reasonable. Plus, it allows us to continue to focus on process improvements and work our way up as, we work to dial efficiencies in and costs, flat or down while fees continue to slightly increase with inflation. We'll get there over time. Yeah.
I'm just thinking if you're taking $1 million from the general fund, which could be used in actually mitigation efforts and making the lakes clear,
totally,
instead of subsidizing, I don't know, somebody else's personal gain.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's a less of a subsidy, so that's good. And what we would like to do at some point, I think you probably heard before I came on board as the finance lead, there were some process improvements put in place where we're starting to measure kind of by item the cost and the fee. So at some point we do want to come back to this committee with some recommendations, more tactical, instead of like a broad adjustment. We may come back and say, hey, these are the 3 areas where we're way underwater. We'd like to make a tactical adjustment to those, but that's still to come.
Yeah. $1 million on State Route 28 would be amazing.
Right. Fair enough. Thank you.
Or SR 89. Split it. Are there any other comments from my colleagues in the room? How about online? Any of my colleagues have comments? Okay, seeing none, then we'll bring it back. Just one quick question. The rental vehicle mitigation fee, what geographic area does that cover?
I think it's all within the basin, rental companies within the basin,
of which there's not many.
correct? That's
And
why
and
it's
you made the
relatively small.
comment that it doesn't affect locals, but if a local rented a car in the basin, they would pay that fee.
No, they can show their, I believe they can show their license and it's not added to the bill,
Oh,
from what I understand.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, then I'll bring it back to the committee and to entertain a motion.
There's two, just so you know, the reason there's two is the rental mitigation fee. Rental vehicle mitigation fee starts effective January 1st, and the others later, I think it's the 20th of January. So it's articulated in the staff report, but that's why there's two separate motions, because there's two start dates. So that's it.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Actually, could I ask a question just before the motion? I could just, curious, have we looked at like a rental car coming out of the Reno airport, but somebody that is staying in Tahoe or driving into the Tahoe Basin? Is the fee, could it potentially be applicable to those rentals?
So Cody, I don't think we know where folks are going once they rent. So I think they rent, anything rented within the basin is what's applicable here. I just don't know I don't know how we could know,
Right.
or how
Okay.
the rental companies could know. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what my question was trying to get at a little bit too, because there's just not a lot of rental companies in the basin. They're all
That's correct.
coming out of Nevada mostly.
Right.
You
I
know,
get it.
or California.
I get it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval. Do you want me to read it? A motion to recommend approval of the attached resolution 2025 blank as shown in attachment A and its exhibit 1, amending the TRPA filing fee schedule and mobility mitigation fee.
Thank you, Ms. Gustafson. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Maria, may we please do a roll call vote?
Mr. Aguilar,
Yes.
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Gustafson,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes,
Ms. Lane.
Yes,
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
thank you. And second motion?
Yes, I'll continue. A motion to approve the attached resolution 20-25 blank as shown in attachment B, amending the rental car mitigation fee.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Maria, please.
Mr. Aguilar,
Yes.
Mr. Bass,
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Gustafson,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
yes,
Ms. Lane.
Yes,
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
great. All right, that takes us to item number 6, which is approval of the September financials, which you can find in your packet beginning on page 109. And Mr. Cox.
Great. Thank you, Chad Cox, TRPA finance lead for the record. First on the government shutdown, just Julie's going to give a page in her director report. But I thought I should cover it and address just quickly how we're thinking about it. It's definitely unsettling. But there's at this point, there's limited impact for the agency currently. Obviously we have grants with federal agencies. Currently, the feedback we're receiving is not business as usual. We think there may be some risk in terms of timing of getting some of the grant invoices paid. But in general, I don't see any risk of the amount of the grants reducing or a risk of getting paid. It's just probably more of a function of timing of when we're paid. We did actually receive a letter from the Forest Service who basically said, hey, we're going to continue to honor our commitments on a timely basis. And so that's encouraging. But in general, it's having a limited impact, even though it's unsettling for both staff and my finance team. Any questions on that? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you use existing cash on hand to cover some of those commitments?
Absolutely. Since the way we are funded with state appropriations at the beginning of the year, we're in good shape. Where I would get concerned is as we're implementing these grants, we pay our contractors. And if it takes a while for our invoices to get paid, that's where we could get into a spot where we're slightly upside down. But we have plenty of operating funds to cover that.
Okay. And is there a chance of those grants getting canceled and then you're
None that I've heard of.
okay?
None that I've heard of.
Mr. Bass.
Yeah, I'm curious with the FTA, some of the transit funds and operation funds, and I know that's more TTD, but it comes through TRPA. Has there been any sign that that's going to slow?
I haven't seen that. I know our first quarter grant invoicing went out this month in October. We do it on a quarterly basis. So like that has gone and we haven't received any feedback of concern. We just need to kind of wait and see. So one of the things we'll report on is looking at the balance sheet. We'll watch that accounts receivable balance and see how aged that gets. So we're going to have to keep an eye on it. I haven't heard anything specific, but it's also still feels a little early because the first quarter invoicing just went out. Sure. Great. So jumping over just to some other highlights, you know, high level 9.8 of revenue, 9.8 million of revenue is on track. Like I said, planning fees have stepped back up in August and September versus July. So we are down, and we'll get into the detail here. We are down slightly versus prior year, but when I go and look at an average of the last few years, we're still doing well on fees. From an expenditure perspective, 3.8 million, and that's at 12% of budget. So let's jump over to the next slide, and we'll get into it in detail. State revenues have been received, invoiced and received, which is great. So Cisco, that's what enables us to work. You know, we receive the appropriation up front, we spend it down throughout the year. You know, Brooke, I know you had some concerns on grants. We've talked about this. I know even in the first week when I pulled the information in September, we had already had, you know, a few $100,000 of grant invoicing that had gone out. My team is continuing to work through that this month. Our goal is to have all of the grant invoicing out in the month of October. I do have a staff that just went on maternity leave. Julia just had her first. And so we're kind of working through as a grants analyst team to kind of cover for her over the next few months while she's on leave. So the team's working hard to get it all out. I don't see an issue, like I said, with grants, and we'll come to you in October with the first quarter, you know, actual invoicing. So still seems to be on track, but obviously there's not much there yet in the figures. I do also know local revenue was invoiced, and we've received confirmation from each of the counties. Yeah, thank you for the receipt, and we'll work to get this paid as soon as possible within our cycle. So those two we should see bump up next month. Rent revenue is on track, and then other revenue is mainly where we receive our interest income from investments. That our big LAIF account, which is where we put our funds in with the state of California, is paid on a quarterly basis. I looked at it here. September's interest was over $200,000 in that account. So as that gets booked in October as well, we'll be north of 25% of that item through roughly a quarter of the year. So we're in good shape, I think, on the revenue front. Any questions? Great. Then jumping quickly over to expenses, the big area and drivers are compensation, which is also on track versus the budget. And then contracts is at 6% of budget. Contracts, remember, ramp up as we implement our grants. Financing, we did get our invoice from Zion's Bank, and we're working to process that. I believe we processed that midway through November, and then again in the spring. And then the other bucket is things like the building improvements that we've been doing. So hopefully, as you guys came in, you saw we got the stain done. We got the forest health done. We actually went through an update with our staff. A lot of progress has been made by Jeremy, our facilities leader. So we're continuing to work through those projects as it makes sense. And yeah, with that, I think that's all I would cover on expenses. I don't know if there's any questions.
Any questions?
Okay, quickly jumping over to cash flow. So cumulatively, we've generated $7 million of cash flow year to date, and that is driven by those state appropriations. And we'll like I said, we'll spend that down over the coming months. So yeah, Cisco, you can see here we're in pretty good shape. Green bars. So we have cushion to work through if there is a delay in some of those federal payments. For now. And with that concludes my September financial report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cox. Are there any questions on the September financials? Any online colleagues with questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the financials.
Accept the financials as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. There's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Aguilar,
Yes.
Mr. Bass.
Yes.
Ms. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. Gustafson,
Yes.
Mr. Rice,
Yes.
Ms. Lane.
Yes.
Madam Chair, the motion passes.
Okay, great. We're on to item number 7. This is our quarterly treasurer's report. It can be found starting on page 195. This is an information item only with no committee action. Mr. Cox.
Great, thanks. So our investment balances are up to $45.5 million. This is up versus the last report because we take those state appropriations and we put the California appropriations into the LAIF account, the Nevada appropriations into the LGIP account, and then we'll pull those out over time as we need them for operating activities. So you see this number pop up a bit versus last quarter, which is it totally makes sense. One thing to discuss here is the federal funds rate in September on the 17th was reduced by 25 basis points. I know there had been a lot of discussion around, hey, when is the Fed going to reduce rates? We finally saw that move. The last time it had moved 25 basis points was in December of 2024. So we didn't see movement for around 9 months. I think there's still anticipations of additional cuts over the next couple of months, but we'll see. That's kind of speculation. As those the funds rate has been cut, we're also seeing reductions in treasury yields across really all categories by roughly the same amount. So as of the end of September, treasuries with maturity of less than a year are now yielding 3.8% for the 6 month. For the 1 year, and 4.1% for the 6 month. 1 and 2 year treasuries are yielding 3.5% and 3.6%. So we've seen those roughly come down about 0.2 to 0.3%, which makes sense because as the federal funds rate comes down, those treasuries will also drop down. From an investment perspective, we continue to stay conservative. 73% of that number is in those state pools, and we can get at those funds in a matter of 24 hours. We just need to make a request, and then those are wired in. So relatively liquid, 73%, 18% in those treasuries, which are affected by the federal funds rate. And I would say that even the state pools are also impacted. I think a lot of the state pool investments are also in treasuries. And then finally, we've got $4.3 million or 9% in corporate securities. So those are yielding a little bit higher than treasuries as you go into corporate securities. That's well within our policy. There have been no corporate security ratings changes. So one thing we look at every month is, hey, have any of those corporate securities have their ratings changed? Because that may be a signal that there's higher risk and we may want to do something with those. So we continue to review those each month, and there have been no changes. So what we have is consistent to prior periods. And then the only other thing I would mention is the average maturity has continued to extend out. Our guy, Eric Lee, we used to have Bruce, but Eric's our new guy. They continue to purchase some longer term, even right before the rate cut, we bought a couple of additional treasury 5-year treasuries. So that way we've kind of locked in that higher rate for a longer period of time. I think our average in the principal pool, our average maturity is now 32 months. So that helps us to continue to yield north of 4% on a good chunk of our portfolio. So it's good. I don't know if there's any questions here.
Yeah. So who's the investment firm that manages this?
Principal.
Okay. What is their fee structure?
Their fee structure, I think, is a function of assets under management. It's a monthly fee. We can have, we had Bruce and Eric Lee present to us last year, early spring, something we typically do on an annual basis, and happy to bring those guys back.
I'm just more
as well.
interested in what their fee structure is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay. That's it.
Yep, this would be net of their fees. Yep. We, yeah, is that something the board would be interested in? Again, that's one of the questions I did have. Typically, I think we would talk to them annually. It hasn't been quite a year, but I think maybe it makes sense to do something in January, kind of balance it in the schedule when we have a little bit of a gap. So, okay.
Yeah.
We'll work on that.
Sounds good. With regards to our corporate securities, what is our policy around what that separation looks like? Like, is there a maximum amount that we can put into?
It's percentage
corporate?
based. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
percentage based.
What's
So
that?
I'd have to go back and look off the top of my head. I don't remember if it's 10%, but I can come back to you. Yeah, absolutely. Every month we look at a blend of, what's our total portfolio and how much do we have in treasuries versus corporate versus money market. And we stay within those bounds. We did update our investment policy last year. And we didn't end up tweaking any of those rates in that policy change, but we follow that policy. So, each month as the principal group is considering where to purchase, we make sure we're within those thresholds with plenty of margin.
Mm-hmm. But it seems like, given the fact that the LAIFs we are seeing change and we're not seeing change in corporate securities, we might want to get closer to what that maximum is.
Yeah.
In corporate, just shift
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. We try to definitely maximize. I mean, even the LAIF and the LGIP have been yielding over 4%, 4.2, 4.25.
Yeah.
So it's been a
Still
pretty good
steady.
yield. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Definitely.
Well, I don't claim to be a
Yeah.
expert in this area, so we'll follow our consultants' leads at this point. And
Absolutely.
yours.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Any
And Madam
further?
Chair,
Yes, Ms. Hill.
thank you so much. I'm just curious, what was the last time we did an RFP for our investment firm?
Yeah, I did look into this post our last discussion. I followed up with our staff. I don't think we have RFP that one that I can tell. So it's something that we need to, look at and understand the rationale as to why. And then at some point we probably need to consider that.
Okay. I know the county just did it and we saved significant money and well, not just about a year ago, and our
Okay.
new investors have brought in some more opportunities for us. So I want to make sure that, not that we have a problem with these guys, I just want to make sure we're getting the best
Totally.
bang for our buck.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely an area of opportunity. It's something that, Kathy and I have discussed. I did look into it after the last time I think you asked the question, and yeah, we just need to get it on the list of other RFPs and yeah, get it going. So thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, again, this is an information item only, no action required. We'll move on to item number 8, which is our upcoming topics. As a reminder to the public, since this item is information only, members of the public are welcome to comment at the final public comment item, which will be at the end of our committee meeting. So, Mr. Cox.
Great. So this is the team's busy right now working through the audit. We actually had Jeff Ball, who's a partner at Davis Farr, on site last week with 3 of his staff. So our staff and our audit staff were working together last week, getting through final audit. So continuing to progress well. And we're on track to have a first pass, hopefully, at a view of the financials in early November. And then we'll work those numbers into the management discussion and analysis and get the full kind of audit and report turned around and presented to you in December is the goal, which will be a month earlier than last year. I think we might be able to even get it done in November, but I think we're just going to make sure we have enough time. I'm working to rewrite and kind of rethink the MD&A, try to modernize that a little bit and get a little more concise on it. So that's upcoming. Obviously, we go through monthly financials in both months and then audit. And then in 26, I mean, we're already almost to fiscal year 20, or sorry, the calendar year 26. We'll be bringing you another AIS fee update, which is our annual update. We'll continue to do our monthly and quarterly financials and treasurer's report. And then we get into budget season. So it's already upon us. So the team, like I said, the team's working hard on the audit. And we'll be bringing that to you in December. And noted on bringing principal group back here when it makes sense.
Excellent.
Great.
Okay,
That's
thank
it.
you. Questions on the upcoming topics? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to committee member comments. Anybody on the committee have comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move to our final public interest comment section. Any member of the public wishing to address the Operations and Governance Committee on any item listed or not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Are there any members in the public that would like to address the committee? You sure? Okay. Any public online?
Madam Chair, we have one hand raised online.
Okay,
Caroline Stutzman. Please unmute and you can address the committee.
welcome, Ms. Stutzman.
Caroline, can you hear us? Was your hand raised accidentally?
Apologies, I did not wish to raise my hand. Thank you, though.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and close public comment and I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.